Alien officer strikes human child. Deathworlders drop her head at the council's feet. Lucas Taylor was 8 years old, and he had never been far from home. His mother, Claire Taylor, always told him that the galaxy was big and full of wonders, but also full of danger. Today they were on the station Veritas, a large trade hub where hundreds of ships from many worlds docked every day. It was a bright place, with wide corridors, floating lights, and the sound of strange voices all around. Lucas clutched his small bag of personal belongings. He had his favorite toy ship, a small model of a human cruiser, and he held it tightly as he walked. "Are you ready, Lucas?" Claire asked. Her voice was calm, but her eyes scanned the crowd. She worked as a logistics aide for one of the trading companies on the station. She had learned to move carefully, to notice when someone was watching, and to avoid trouble. "We need to finish our business quickly." Lucas nodded. He was excited. He had never seen so many different aliens before. Some had long necks, others had shiny shells, and a few walked on many legs. He tried to keep up with his mother, but he kept looking around, fascinated by every detail. As they approached the inspection area, a tall alien officer stepped out from the shadows. Veshra was her name. She had purple skin, sharp eyes, and long fingers that could crush bone without effort. She was in charge of security for the station and carried authority like a heavy weapon. She noticed Lucas immediately, a small human with wide eyes and messy brown hair, walking too close to a restricted corridor. "Halt," Veshra said, her voice like steel. Lucas froze. Claire stepped in front of him, raising her hands. "He is just a child. Please do not." Veshra ignored her. She raised her hand and struck Lucas across the face. It was not a hard strike, but for an 8-year-old it was frightening and painful. Lucas fell to the ground, clutching his cheek, tears running down his face. "He must not touch restricted areas," Veshra said, her voice cold. "This is a warning." Claire knelt beside Lucas, checking for injuries. "He didn't do anything wrong," she said softly. "He was just walking." Other people in the corridor gasped. Some aliens whispered to each other. No one stepped forward. They were afraid of Veshra. She had a reputation for being strict, for punishing anyone who broke the rules, no matter how small the offense. Lucas cried quietly, holding his cheek. Claire tried to calm him. "We will report this," she said. "Someone will make her pay for this strike." Veshra turned and left, tall and proud. No one dared stop her. Lucas wiped his tears and looked at his mother. "Why did she hit me?" he asked. His voice was small, but it carried pain. "Because some beings do not understand children," Claire said. She hugged him tightly. "But we will make sure it is remembered." By the time they finished their business, word of the strike had spread. Aliens on the station whispered, humans were shocked, and the council that oversaw the trade hub ignored it. To them, it was a minor incident. A child had been struck. It was not worth serious attention. Yet in human space, news moved quickly. A message from Lucas and Claire's company was sent to the human consulate, describing what happened. Paul Carter, a human envoy stationed on a nearby world, read the report with growing anger. Humans valued their children, and the attack was unacceptable. Paul knew that this could escalate. Humans had been patient for centuries, watching other species ignore their rules and harm their people. But children were different. "They think we are weak," Paul muttered to his aide, a young officer named Ethan Ross. "They will learn." "We do not forget. We do not forgive when it comes to our children." Far away, retired soldiers and explorers heard the news. Some were far from human worlds, exploring dangerous systems, charting new planets. They had left military life behind, but the blood of Deathworlders ran in their veins. Deathworlders were humans who came from the harshest planets, worlds that made other species tremble at their names. They were strong, resilient, and feared because they were never careless. These humans did not gather weapons yet. They did not shout threats. They simply noted the name, Lucas Taylor. They remembered the strike. They remembered Veshra, and they prepared. On the station, Lucas recovered slowly. His cheek was red, a small bruise forming, but his spirit was more affected than his body. He sat with his mother in the quiet of their quarters. "Will she come back?" Lucas asked, eyes wide. "We do not know," Claire said. "But you must remember, Lucas, the universe has rules. Some follow them, some break them. And sometimes those who break them must learn the consequences." Lucas nodded, but he was still scared. He had seen anger in Veshra's eyes, and he had felt the force of her hand. It was a strange, cold anger that he did not understand. Meanwhile, Veshra returned to her post. She reported the incident to her superiors. She said it was a minor accident. No one questioned her. She was safe, respected, and powerful. But she did not realize that humans were watching, quietly planning and preparing to act. In human worlds, parents told their children stories of courage and protection. Soldiers remembered old lessons from Deathworlds. Always defend the young, always act decisively, and never let a small injustice be forgotten. Paul Carter began sending reports, urging the council to punish Veshra. The council dismissed his warnings. They were confident in their law, their rank, and their authority. Humans, they thought, would not risk conflict over a single child. Lucas tried to sleep that night, but he could not. He felt the bruise on his cheek, and he remembered the eyes of the alien who struck him. He thought of his mother, and he felt a strange mixture of fear and hope. He knew that humans would not let this go. He did not know how or when, but he trusted them. Far beyond the station, a small fleet of human ships began to move. They were not large, not armed for war, but they carried people who would not ignore an injustice. Ethan Ross, Megan Hill, and Susan Lee, all former explorers and soldiers, read the reports carefully. They memorized the location of Veshra's station, her routines, and her strengths. They were calm, quiet, and determined. Their goal was simple: protect the human child, punish the guilty, and send a message that humans did not tolerate harm to their young. Lucas did not know any of this. He only knew his mother was there, holding him, and that the bruise on his cheek hurt. Claire tried to comfort him. "We must trust that right will win," she said. "Sometimes courage is quiet, sometimes it is slow, but it is always there." And somewhere in the shadows, Veshra remained unaware that her actions, a simple strike against a child, would echo across worlds. She thought the matter closed. She thought humans would do nothing. She was wrong. The first part of the story ends with Lucas sitting by the window of their quarters, looking at the stars. He could see ships moving slowly through the station's space lanes. He did not know it, but some of those ships carried humans who would cross great distances to protect him. He did not know it, but the galaxy was about to learn that striking a human child, especially a Deathworlder, was not a small matter. The night was quiet on Veritas station, but across the stars plans were being made. Humans would act. Humans would answer. And a small boy named Lucas Taylor, bruised but brave, had already changed the course of events in ways no one expected. Part 2. The Council's Mistake. The interstellar council chamber was enormous. Glowing panels lit the room with soft light. Hundreds of species gathered here, some tall, some short, some with skin that shimmered like metal. The council governed the largest trade and diplomatic hub in the sector. It was a place of law, tradition, and power. Yet today, it was about to make a mistake that would echo across the stars. Veshra, the alien officer who had struck Lucas, stood before the council. She carried herself with pride, her purple skin bright under the council's lights. She told her story clearly. The child had been near a restricted area, he had been careless, and she had acted according to station rules. She spoke with authority, expecting applause or at least approval. Some members nodded politely. Others whispered among themselves. "Minor incident," one elder said. Her voice was soft, but she carried authority. "We cannot punish a high-ranking officer for an accident with a child." Humans were present in small numbers. Paul Carter, the envoy, stepped forward. He was tall, with short brown hair and calm eyes, but his words were sharp. "Accidents do not excuse harm," he said. "A child was struck. This violates every principle humans hold. Your leniency will be seen as weakness. If justice is denied, humans will act." The council murmured, some laughed quietly. Humans, they thought, were weak. They had no large military presence here. They were few, scattered, and often polite. The council members smiled, thinking Paul Carter was bluffing. Veshra bowed slightly. "I acted within my duty," she said. "The child is unharmed. Further punishment is unnecessary." Paul's eyes narrowed. "Unharmed in body, perhaps, but harmed in spirit, and harm to a child is remembered. Humans remember." The council dismissed him, moving on to other topics. Trade routes, supply quotas, interstellar laws. The incident with Lucas was set aside as if it had never happened. Outside the council chamber, messages were sent across human space. Reports of the incident traveled to planets and stations where Deathworlders lived. On worlds with harsh climates, humans who had trained for survival, for war, and for protection of the innocent read the reports carefully. They felt anger, but they also felt clarity. Action was necessary. Ethan Ross, a former soldier now living on a remote research station, received the report. He read it twice. He did not shout or panic. He simply marked the location, Station Veritas. He wrote down Veshra's name. He contacted Megan Hill, an explorer who had mapped dangerous sectors, and Susan Lee, a medic who had saved lives on Deathworld planets. "This is serious," Ethan said, speaking in a secure channel. "A human child was attacked and the council refuses to act. This cannot be ignored. We prepare. We move when the time is right." Megan nodded. "We do not move recklessly. We gather facts, follow the law, and protect the innocent. But we do not forget. Humans are slow to anger but fast to act when our young are harmed." Susan's voice was calm. "And the child must be safe first. Lucas Taylor's safety is priority number one." Far away on Veritas, Lucas and Claire did not yet know of the preparations. Their days were quiet, but tension hung in the air. Parents and children always sensed danger, even when none was visible. Lucas could feel it, a small tightening in his chest, a shadow behind the bright lights of the station. Claire saw it too. She hugged him often, whispered comfort, and tried to prepare him without frightening him. "Remember, Lucas," she said one evening, "there are rules in the galaxy. Some follow them, some break them. We must be careful. But humans will always protect their own." Lucas nodded, unsure what she meant. His bruised cheek was fading, but the memory of Veshra's hand remained sharp. He looked at the stars outside the window, imagining faraway worlds, ships moving silently through space. He did not know that among those stars, humans were beginning to move, slowly and quietly, toward him. At the council, the elders debated other matters. They spoke of trade disputes, interstellar crimes, and exploration routes. Veshra returned to her duties, confident that nothing would happen. She had obeyed the rules, and humans, she thought, were too polite to interfere. But she underestimated human patience. Humans, especially Deathworlders, measured consequences carefully. They did not rush. They watched, they gathered intelligence, and they acted with purpose. Paul Carter sent repeated warnings. Each time the council ignored him. "You must understand," Paul said in one communication, "we do not act rashly. We do not seek war. We seek justice. If it is denied here, we will deliver it ourselves." Messages traveled faster than ships in human space. Across harsh planets, retired soldiers trained again, preparing their minds and bodies. Explorers noted patrol routes near Station Veritas. Medics prepared for emergencies. No one left the safety of their posts, but all were ready. The council laughed privately at Paul's warnings. Humans, they thought, could not enforce justice this far from home. They were scattered. They were polite. They were weak. Yet they did not see the quiet gathering, the preparation, or the careful planning. Back on Veritas, Lucas learned about the council's decision from his mother. She tried to explain without frightening him. "They will not punish her," she said softly. "But do not worry, Lucas. Humans do not forget. They will act when it is right. Sometimes right is quiet. Sometimes it is sudden." Lucas frowned. "Will she come back?" "We do not know," Claire said. "But you must remember courage is not always loud. Sometimes it comes from people far away who care more than anyone knows." Days passed, and the humans continued to prepare. Ethan, Megan, and Susan worked quietly, studying Station Veritas, its patrol routes, its defenses, and the routines of Veshra. They did not plan to harm innocents. They planned to enforce justice, to protect the child, and to deliver a clear message. Other humans joined them. Retired pilots, engineers, and soldiers offered advice. Small ships were readied for fast travel. Communication channels were secured. Every move was calculated. The plan was not chaos, it was precise. Humans were slow to act, but when they did, their actions carried weight. Paul Carter continued to speak at the council. "This is not a threat," he said firmly. "It is a promise. If the child is harmed again, if the offender is protected, humans will act. Do not test us. Do not test our patience." Veshra, meanwhile, moved through the station unaware of the gathering storm. She patrolled corridors, inspected cargo, and walked past corridors where humans moved silently. She believed everything was normal. She believed humans would follow their polite ways. She did not see the storm forming across the stars. Lucas began to recover. His cheek healed and he smiled again. But in his heart he remembered the strike. He remembered the fear. He did not yet understand what humans would do, but he felt hope. He trusted them. He did not know their names or their faces or their distant planets, but he felt their protection. One evening, Claire sat with Lucas near the observation deck. Ships glided past in the distance, lights shining against the darkness of space. "See them?" she asked. "People far away. Some of them care for you, Lucas. They may not be here yet, but they are moving quietly, carefully. Soon you will not be alone." Lucas stared at the ships. "How do they know me?" "Humans are connected," Claire said. "We watch, we listen, and we act when it is needed. They have learned that harming a child is the greatest mistake someone can make. Sometimes the smallest people change the biggest events." And so the council's mistake became clear. They believed humans were weak, polite, and unlikely to respond. They thought Veshra's actions were minor and forgettable. They were wrong. Humans were slow to anger, patient, and careful, but they were relentless when it came to their children. The story of Lucas Taylor, an 8-year-old boy struck by an alien officer, began to spread through human space like a quiet fire. Humans prepared in secret, far from the council's notice. They studied, planned, and waited for the right moment. They would not act recklessly. They would act decisively. And they would make sure the council and Veshra understood one thing: harming a human child, especially a Deathworlder, was never without consequences. In the quiet of the night on Station Veritas, Lucas looked at the stars again. He did not know how close the humans were or how carefully they moved. He only knew that his mother was there, holding his hand, and that somewhere in the galaxy, people were preparing to protect him. He did not yet understand the scale of what was coming. He only knew that justice, human justice, would not be denied. Part 3. Deathworld Justice. Far from Station Veritas, Ethan Ross, Megan Hill, and Susan Lee gathered on a small human research ship. The vessel was modest with few weapons, but it carried skill, planning, and determination. No alarms sounded. No unnecessary chatter disturbed the calm. Each member of the team had decades of experience in survival, exploration, and protection. They did not act recklessly. They acted with precision. "Station Veritas is heavily patrolled," Megan said, pointing at a holographic map of the station. "Veshra is known for strict routines. She trusts her guards and the council protects her. We will need patience, observation, and careful timing." Ethan nodded. His eyes scanned the data. "We do not want to hurt innocents, only those who harmed Lucas. Our goal is clear. We protect the child and we enforce consequences. Nothing more, nothing less. Susan, the medic, reviewed medical supplies and emergency protocols. If anything goes wrong, we must stabilize Lucas immediately. His safety is first. The rest is secondary. The plan was simple in concept but difficult in execution. They would travel quietly, blend with the station population, gather intelligence on Veshra's movements, and find a way to confront her legally and publicly. Humans had ways to ensure justice without unnecessary bloodshed, but they also had ways to make sure criminals could not escape punishment. Veshra would soon learn this. Meanwhile, on Station Veritas, Lucas and his mother continued their daily routines. Lucas went to a small educational center, learning basic science and human history. He smiled, laughed, and slowly forgot the immediate fear of the strike. But Claire knew better. She kept a careful watch, alert to any danger. "They are coming," she whispered one evening, though Lucas did not understand fully. "Humans who will not let harm go unanswered. Soon everything will change." Lucas frowned. "Do they know where I am?" "Yes," Claire said, "but they will be careful. They will not harm anyone else. They are here to protect you and to make things right." On the human ship, Ethan, Megan, and Susan prepared their approach. Megan set up surveillance drones to monitor the station from a distance. Ethan coordinated with retired pilots for rapid transport in case of emergencies. Susan trained for quick medical intervention. Every step was planned. Humans did not leave room for mistakes, especially when a child's life was at stake. "Remember," Ethan said, "Veshra is not used to humans acting decisively. She expects threats to be polite warnings. We will not give her the chance to underestimate us." As they approached the station, the team moved quietly. They docked in a less-known sector, blending with other ships. No alarms were triggered. They carried no obvious weapons, only tools, communication devices, and records of Veshra's crime. Humans preferred to act with law and proof, not with unnecessary violence. Once inside the station, Ethan, Megan, and Susan split into teams. Megan and Ethan observed Veshra's routine from a safe distance. They noted her patrol times, her favorite resting areas, and the paths she took when traveling between posts. Susan stayed near the observation points, ready to respond if Lucas needed help. Veshra remained unaware of the human presence. She moved with confidence, believing that the Council's protection was enough. She dismissed minor alerts from her guards, proud of her authority. She did not understand the quiet patience of Deathworlders. She did not know that humans were patient, precise, and relentless in protecting their own. One day, Ethan followed Veshra as she walked toward a private chamber used for Council reports. He noted her entry codes, security patterns, and guard rotations. Megan recorded all movements with a small device, ensuring proof of her routines. Susan monitored Lucas through hidden sensors placed in the tailor quarters, ensuring the boy's safety at all times. "We have enough information," Megan said quietly. "We can confront her, but carefully. This is about justice, not revenge. If we act too soon, she may panic or hurt someone else." Ethan agreed. "We wait for the right moment. She must be held accountable in a way that all witnesses see. Humans do not hide justice. We show it so others learn." Days passed. Lucas continued his life, unaware of the careful planning surrounding him. He smiled at the other children at the education center, played small games in the courtyard, and felt the slow healing of his fear. Claire watched him, proud and worried at the same time. She did not speak of the human team, only reminded him to stay cautious. "Humans are coming," she whispered one night. "They will not fail. You will be safe." Meanwhile, Veshra's confidence grew. She patrolled without concern, believing the Council's protection and her reputation were enough. She smiled at minor complaints from citizens, punished small infractions, and ignored the distant rumors about humans preparing action. Ethan, Megan, and Susan observed everything. They waited for Veshra to make a mistake or appear in a public place. Their goal was not to kill, but to ensure she faced the consequences in front of witnesses. They wanted the council, aliens and humans alike to understand that harming a child was a crime that would not be ignored. Finally, the moment came. Veshra entered the main observation hall, a place where dozens of species often gathered. She spoke with guards, ignored minor disputes, and moved confidently. Ethan gave a small signal. Megan activated recording devices hidden around the hall. Susan remained in contact with Lucas and Claire, ready to intervene if needed. The human team moved silently into position. They did not draw weapons. They carried proof, recorded reports, witness statements, and evidence of Veshra striking Lucas. Humans preferred to act with law and transparency, not fear and intimidation. Veshra noticed a small disturbance but dismissed it. She did not know that humans were already surrounding her. She believed she was safe, protected by her rank and the council. She did not understand human patience, precision, and persistence. Veshra, Ethan said calmly, stepping forward, you are under human law for your actions against Lucas Taylor. You will answer for your strike in front of witnesses. This is not a threat. This is a duty. Veshra froze. Her eyes darted around. She saw humans moving with calm determination. She realized she was outnumbered in authority, not in numbers. Humans did not need large forces. They needed will, proof, and courage. I was only following station rules, she stammered. He the child, it was not. Intent does not excuse harm, Megan said, her voice firm. You struck an 8-year-old child. Humans protect their young. You will be held accountable. At that moment, Susan ensured Lucas was safe. She communicated with Claire, guiding them to remain hidden. Lucas watched from a distance, understanding only that people were protecting him, standing up for him. Veshra realized that escape was impossible. Humans had studied every movement, every code, every guard rotation. She was trapped not by force but by certainty. Humans did not rush. They did not panic. They acted only when success was guaranteed. This is human justice, Ethan said. We do not hide. We do not threaten beyond what is necessary. You will face the consequences publicly and truthfully. The council will see. The universe will see. Veshra, realizing the power of humans, finally lowered her head. She had never imagined that a child could cause such careful, decisive action. She understood that humans were not weak, not polite in the way she had assumed, and certainly not careless. Outside, the station continued its normal routines. Aliens moved about, unaware that a human child had changed the course of events. The Taylor family remained safe, hidden by careful planning. The humans had ensured nothing unnecessary would be harmed, nothing innocent endangered. Lucas did not understand fully, but he felt a strange warmth. Humans, far away at first, had arrived quietly and decisively. He knew that protection had reached him, and that those who harmed children would be held accountable. He felt hope, trust, and the slow disappearance of fear. The first step of Deathworld justice had been completed. Veshra had been captured not by weapons, but by the careful certainty of human law and human will. The next steps would involve the council, the public, and the enforcement of consequences. Humans had shown that patience, precision, and courage could reach even the most distant corners of the galaxy. Lucas, finally safe for now, looked at the stars again. He did not know the names of the humans who protected him, or the paths they had traveled. He only knew that justice had arrived, quietly, carefully, and decisively. And somewhere deep in the hearts of humans, a lesson had been made clear. Harming a human child was never without consequences. Part 4. A lesson delivered. The council chamber on Verida's station was full. Aliens of all shapes and sizes filled the great hall. Some had scales that shimmered, others had skin that glowed faintly. Everyone had gathered for a routine meeting, discussing trade, borders, and interstellar law. But today, The meeting would not be routine. Veshra stood at the front, tense and uneasy. She had been captured by humans days earlier, but transported quietly and safely, without harm to anyone else. She had resisted initially, not understanding the calm precision of human action. Now she was in the council's chamber, aware that she would face consequences publicly. Her purple skin had paled slightly, and her sharp eyes darted around nervously. She had never imagined that humans could deliver justice with such certainty and control. Ethan Ross, Megan Hill, and Susan Lee stood nearby. They did not carry weapons, only records, evidence, and the calm authority of humans. Their plan was simple: deliver justice, protect Lucas Taylor, and ensure that everyone understood that harming a human child was unacceptable. Paul Carter stepped forward. His presence was commanding but calm. "Members of the council," he said, his voice steady, "this meeting is no longer routine. We bring evidence of a crime. An alien officer, Veshra, struck a human child, Lucas Taylor, on this station. The council ignored warnings. Humans warned you that this would not be forgotten. Today, you will see why." He gestured, and a transparent container was moved to the center of the chamber. Inside was Veshra's recorded actions, witness statements, and detailed logs of the incident. The recording played for everyone to see. Veshra striking Lucas, the fear in his eyes, the reactions of bystanders. The chamber was silent. No whispers, no shuffles. The evidence was clear. Veshra tried to speak. "It was a mistake. I followed rules. Paul raised his hand. "Intent does not excuse harm. Harming a child is never a minor mistake." The council members shifted uncomfortably. Some tried to defend Veshra. "She acted according to law," one elder said. "She is a respected officer." Paul shook his head. "Respect and rank do not excuse a crime. Humans protect their young. Our law is simple: harm a child and you face consequences. This is not negotiation, it is fact. Justice will be served." Veshra's eyes widened as she realized the full scale of human action. They had transported her safely, gathered proof, and delivered it publicly. She had expected threats, perhaps warnings, but not this calm, precise certainty. She understood now that humans acted differently than other species. They were patient, careful, and unstoppable when protecting the innocent. Megan Hill stepped forward, displaying more evidence. "We have recorded the exact times, the location, the sequence of events. We have ensured nothing is altered. This is truth. Veshra struck a human child, that is all." The chamber murmured. Aliens whispered among themselves. Some were shocked, some were embarrassed. Others were angry that humans could act with such authority so far from their own space. Paul continued, his voice firm. "We do not act out of rage. We act with law, with certainty, and with purpose. This is human justice. It is not cruel, but it is absolute. We do not allow harm to children to go unanswered." Veshra lowered her head. She realized that she could not deny the evidence. She understood that her rank, her council protection, and her power could not shield her from the certainty of human action. She had underestimated humans. She had underestimated Deathworlders. "You will answer for your actions," Paul said. "Today you face consequences. The council will witness and the galaxy will witness. We do not hide our law. We do not hide our purpose. Harming a human child brings certainty of justice, no matter where in the stars it occurs." Susan Lee stepped forward, speaking quietly. "Lucas Taylor is safe. He was never in danger during this process. Humans do not harm innocents. We only deliver truth and consequences. You will learn that our actions are measured, precise, and final." The chamber fell silent. Even the whispers stopped. The council realized that humans were different from other species. They were not impulsive, but they were relentless. They did not rely on weapons or fear. They relied on proof, law, and certainty. The lesson was clear. Harming a child was never without consequence. Veshra looked around. The council members who had once protected her now avoided eye contact. She realized that she could not escape this moment. Her reputation was shattered. The humans had shown that justice could reach any corner of the galaxy, and they had done so without unnecessary violence. Ethan stepped forward. Veshra, you will be held accountable according to human law. Your actions have caused fear and harm. You will be disciplined publicly, and the evidence will remain for all to see. This is not revenge. This is protection of the innocent. Veshra nodded slowly, finally understanding the lesson. She had struck a child. Humans had acted. There was no escape, no evasion, no denial. She had learned the hard way that Deathworlders were precise, patient, and unstoppable in protecting their own. Paul Carter turned to the council. Let this be a lesson. Humans value life, and we value our children most of all. Any species that harms them will face certainty, not rage, but certainty. We do not forget. We do not forgive lightly. The universe must learn this truth. The council members were silent. Some were embarrassed. Some were angry. Some realized that they had misjudged humans. The elders could not argue. The evidence, the human preparation, and the calm authority of Ethan, Megan, Susan, and Paul left no room for denial. Outside the chamber, Lucas and his mother watched through hidden observation. Lucas did not understand all the details, but he felt safe. He saw humans acting for him, protecting him, and ensuring that those who harmed him would be held accountable. He felt pride, trust, and hope. Claire held his hand. See, Lucas, humans keep their word. We protect each other no matter the distance. Courage can be quiet, but it is always strong. Lucas nodded. They made her stop, he whispered. They will make sure no one else gets hurt. Paul Carter concluded the session. Veshra will face human law, and the council will learn from this. Let this be a clear message. Harming a human child brings certainty of consequences. Nothing else matters. Law, truth, and protection guide us. Veshra was escorted away under careful supervision. She no longer held pride or authority. She understood the lesson. Humans would not be ignored, underestimated, or delayed when it came to protecting their own. The council learned too. They would think twice before dismissing warnings. They would think twice before allowing harm to human children. The lesson was delivered, quietly, clearly, and effectively. Humans had acted not with rage but with certainty. They had shown their strength, their patience, and their commitment to justice. Lucas watched the stars again that night. He did not yet understand the full scale of what had happened, but he felt safe. Humans had crossed the galaxy for him, and he had learned that courage could be quiet, patient, and unstoppable. The universe had learned a lesson too. Harming a human child, especially a Deathworlder, carried consequences that could not be ignored. Justice, when delivered by humans, was precise, certain, and absolute. And so the human team returned Lucas to his mother. They left quietly, unseen by most, their mission complete. They had not sought glory. They had not sought revenge. They had only acted to protect, to enforce law, and to deliver a lesson that would be remembered across the stars. Veshra, humbled and shamed, had learned the power of human law and determination. The council, stunned and cautious, had learned that humans could act decisively even far from home. And Lucas Taylor, safe and unharmed, had changed the perception of an entire species. Humans had shown the galaxy that they were not to be underestimated. They had shown that patience, precision, and law could reach even the most distant places. They had shown that children were sacred, and those who harmed them would face certainty, not chance. The stars above Veritas shone quietly, but across human space, plans and lessons had been delivered. Humans had acted. Justice had been served. And the universe would not forget Part 5. The child and the future. The galaxy felt different to Lucas Taylor now. The bruise on his cheek had faded, but the memory of Veshra's strike remained. He remembered fear, but he also remembered the humans who had come for him, who had acted quietly, carefully, and decisively to protect him. He had learned something important. The universe could be dangerous, but justice could reach even the most distant corners. Lucas sat with his mother, Claire, in the quiet of their quarters on Station Veritas. He held a small model of a human cruiser in his hands, turning it over slowly. His mother watched him, her expression a mixture of relief and pride. "How did they do it?" Lucas asked quietly. "How did the humans make her stop?" Claire smiled softly. "They planned, Lucas. They watched, they studied, and they acted at the right moment. Humans are patient, but when they protect those they love, they are unstoppable. They do not need to threaten. They do not need to shout. They only need truth, law, and courage." Lucas nodded. He could feel the truth in her words. The humans had crossed the galaxy for him. They had risked nothing unnecessary, but they had ensured justice was delivered. Even from far away, they had been with him. Meanwhile, Veshra faced the consequences of her actions. The council had recorded everything. She had been disciplined according to human law. Her privileges had been revoked, her reputation had been damaged, and she would never forget the certainty of human action. Other species on the station whispered among themselves. They had seen humans act calmly, carefully, and decisively. They had learned a lesson they would not forget. The council itself began to change. Rules regarding civilian protection were rewritten. Laws about the treatment of children and innocents became stricter. Humans had shown that their patience did not mean weakness. Humans had shown that harm to a child brought certainty of consequence. Lucas noticed small changes around the station. Guards were more careful. Officers were more polite. Aliens who had once ignored the rules now watched their actions. The influence of human justice spread quietly, like a shadow across the galaxy. One evening, Lucas and Claire visited the observation deck. Ships moved silently in the distance, lights glinting against the dark of space. Lucas pointed to a small fleet moving slowly near the station. "Are those humans?" he asked. Claire nodded. "Some of them are. They will make sure we remain safe. They move quietly. You may never see them up close, but they watch and protect. Humans always protect their own." Lucas thought about Ethan, Megan, and Susan, and Paul Carter. He imagined their careful planning, their silent preparation, and their precise action. He felt pride and trust. He understood that the universe could be dangerous, but some forces acted to make it safer. He knew that humans were one of those forces. On distant human worlds, news of the incident spread. Children and adults alike learned the story of Lucas Taylor. Humans told it not as a tale of violence, but as a story of protection, courage, and law. The story became a lesson for every generation. Harming a human child brought certainty of consequences. Patience and law were weapons as strong as any fleet. Retired soldiers and explorers returned to their lives, quietly proud of what they had accomplished. Ethan Ross returned to his research station, Megan Hill returned to her exploration routes, and Susan Lee continued her medical work. They had acted decisively, delivered justice, and protected an innocent. No one outside the human worlds might know their names, but Lucas would never forget them. Neither would the galaxy. Veshra, humbled and changed, avoided humans when possible. She no longer carried herself with the same arrogance. She had learned that strength alone did not protect her from consequences. She had learned that humans, especially Deathworlders, were patient, precise, and relentless when it came to their young. As weeks passed, Lucas began to laugh again. He played with other children at the education center. He explored small corners of the station under his mother's watch. He learned about science, history, and the stars. He no longer feared Veshra. He had seen justice delivered, and he knew humans would act again if harm came. One day, Claire sat with Lucas near a window. The stars stretched endlessly in front of them. She held his hand gently. "Remember, Lucas," she said, "the universe can be dangerous. Not everyone follows rules, but humans always protect each other. You are never truly alone." Lucas nodded. "I know," he said softly. "They came for me. They made sure I was safe. I will never forget." and across the galaxy other species took note. Humans had acted decisively, but not cruelly. They had protected their own without unnecessary violence. The story of Lucas Taylor became a quiet warning. Harming a human child could change the course of events, even across distant stars. Back on Veritas Station, the Council reviewed their actions. They adjusted laws, monitored officers more carefully, and began to respect human patience and precision. Other species began to study human behavior, realizing that their polite demeanor did not mean weakness. Humans could act carefully, decisively, and effectively, delivering justice when it mattered most. Lucas and his mother looked out at the ships passing through the lanes. He imagined the humans who had moved across the stars to protect him. He imagined their calm planning, their careful action, and their quiet authority. He felt a deep sense of safety and trust. The universe was dangerous, but humans had shown that protection could reach even the most distant corners. "Will they always protect me?" Lucas asked. "They will," Claire said. "Humans protect their young. We act with patience, law, and courage. You are never alone, Lucas." The boy smiled, finally feeling at peace. He had been struck, he had feared, but he had seen justice. He had seen humans act decisively, calmly, and with certainty. He had learned that even in a vast galaxy, protection could reach him, and that harming a human child carried consequences that could not be avoided. As night fell on Station Veritas, Lucas and Claire sat together. The stars shone quietly above and ships moved slowly in the lanes. Humans had acted. Justice had been delivered. And the galaxy had learned a lesson that would last for generations. Children were protected, patience was powerful, and law was absolute. Lucas held his small model cruiser and looked at the stars. He understood now that courage could be quiet, patience could be strong, and justice could reach even the farthest reaches of space. He smiled, finally safe, finally free from fear, and finally part of a universe that had learned the value of human protection. The story of Lucas Taylor ended not with rage, not with chaos, but with calm certainty. Humans had crossed the galaxy, acted decisively, and protected their own. They had delivered a lesson in patience, law, and courage. The universe would remember. Lucas looked at the stars one last time before sleep. He knew that humans, his people, would always act for those who could not protect themselves. And in that quiet moment, he felt a deep trust, a sense of safety, and a hope that stretched across the galaxy. Humans had acted. Justice had been delivered. And Lucas Taylor, small but brave, had changed the course of events in a galaxy that would never forget the lesson of Deathworld justice.